Hello, in this C programming video, I am going to talk to you about passing arrays to functions as parameters. So by default, so let's say if we set up a quick function and I'm gonna have it just call, it's gonna return an int and I'm gonna call it average, and it's gonna take in two parameters, int num1, int num2, and now we'll return this as a float. If we're doing an average, float will be better, or double or float, anything like that. And what we'll do is say return, and now we'll do, we'll return num1 plus num2 divided by 2, and we'll add some brackets in there, add a semicolon, and now if we was to literally print off the result of average, and let's say we just put in 5,6, so the average will be 5.5 because it's, in between the two values. And we run it. I'm missing the semicolon here. I know this also isn't going to run. I need to put percent or %d and comma. There we go. And we get that. Sorry, %f. Yes, 5. So let's put these as floats. Feel like it might be doing some integer calculations. There we go. It's just doing integer calculations. So just got to be careful with that. That's fine if you've got like 2 numbers, 3, maybe even 4 numbers. But what if you have, let's say, 100 numbers? An array, for example. And that's what we're gonna, talk about today. So let's get rid of this. I'm gonna create an array. I'm gonna say int numbers, and it's gonna have 100 numbers. And I'm gonna initialize it for, again, I've already covered this in a previous video, so feel free to check it out. Equals 0, I less than 100, I plus plus, and what I'm gonna do is assign that value in I, in the array, I should say, for example, like so. And now what we're gonna do is take an average of this. We're going to modify this function. So we want to take in, we still want to return some sort of float, but we want to take in what's it called? An array. And the way you pass in array is, well, put these as float numbers as well. So we'll put it as float. Yeah, if it gets assigned in it, that's fine, you'll cast it inside. So the way you pass an array to a function is using a pointer. And because we're passing in a float array or an array of float numbers, it'll be a float pointer. If you are passing an array of integers, it'll be an integer pointer. And I'm going to show you the 3 different ways of doing it. So I'll do the one that probably makes the most sense just by looking at it. So we'll put float, and I'm going to call it array of numbers, and put the same size as 100, and we're literally gonna copy and paste this, and we'll loop over our array. And what we'll do is say float total, and we'll assign this a value of 0 by default. Total plus equals, so we'll add the value of array of numbers, and each member in the array will add it to the total. And then we'll finally do return total divided by 100, and we'll do 0.0f like so. And other than that, we're all good to go. So we've initialized it. We just need to run this, and what we'll have to do with printf, you can assign it to a variable if you wanted, but I'm going to directly just print it, and I'm going to say the average is %f, and I'm going to put comma, and I'm going to pass in the array itself. Nope, sorry, my bad. I'm going to actually call the function, so I'm going to call it average numbers. So if we get 49.5, so that's what the average is coming out to. That's fine. So that's one way of, setting this up. This, looking at it kind of makes sense because you have an array here that's of size 100. This can have the same, name as this because it's within this scope and this is linked to this scope. There's no conflict, but I wanted to, just name it differently so you could distinctly see the difference. But there's also another way to do it, and I'm going to show you right now, and I'm going to comment out the first one. In the source code, I will leave all versions in there so you can have a look, and you can just do this. You can literally put square brackets, and with this, it's not a specified size, so you really do need to know, what you're doing. So if you're passing in only an array of 5 elements, for example, and you don't want to be doing something like this, what I would recommend, and I'd recommend doing this as an extra task, either A, pass in another variable, that's the size of the array, how many values there are, so 100, so you know to go to 100 in the array, and you know to divide it by 100, and this, works for all of them. Or the array that's passed in, doesn't matter if it's this one type, or the third type that I'll be showing you soon, I want you to figure out, using some maths, using probably size of, functionality to figure out how many elements there are. Feel free to have a go at that. If you have any questions, feel free to post on the Discord group, link in the description. Feel free to post in the comments as well. Let me show you the final method. So this is the second method, and the final method is pretty simple as well. You don't put square brackets because either way it's passing in a float pointer, and you just put the pointer character, which is an asterisk. You don't put square brackets. Run it. Yeah, it's of type float, so I don't know why. Oh, okay, it's working now. Yeah, I was gonna say for the asterisk there should be fine. So yeah, there we go. So that's the other way of doing it. You just put the pointer operator. You'll notice that the actual code inside the function doesn't change. The way you manipulate it, the way you read values, modify values is exactly the same. One thing to bear in mind, and this is the case with all 3 types, unlike passing in a regular variable where it creates its own local copy and any changes you make to the local copy doesn't affect the original unless you pass it by reference or by pointer. Because arrays are always passed by pointer, you will modify the original one. So let me show you what I mean. So if before calling this method, I do printf, and I'm gonna say, I'm literally just gonna print out a value, and I'm gonna print out numbers, and I'm gonna print out the first one. I'll put a \n, so there's a new line. So we should get 0 there. And if I print it out after, we should still get 0 because I haven't done anything in the function yet. So we get 0, we get 0. I'm gonna print out a new line. So we get 0. We ignore this and we get 0. Watch what happens if inside the function, and I'll do it after the for loop just because I don't want to mess around with the the result of 49.5. But what I'll say is I'm going to say array of numbers. I'm going to change the first value and I'm going to change it to 9. Random number, doesn't matter the number. If I run it, we get 9. So because you're passing by pointer, and that's how you have to do it with arrays, you will change the original one. So be careful. You can get around that by using constants, and I'll create a separate video for that, for passing by constant, so that way you don't modify the original one. But that is how you pass an array into your function. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to post on the Discord group, link in the description, or post in the comments. As an extra task, I want you to make it dynamic, so you can, instead of using a version like this, you use either this version or this version, which does not specify the size of the array, and you figure out some method for doing the divide and iterating over the array. But that way, if your array that you pass in has 5 numbers or 5,000 numbers, either way it will do the calculation of an average, and that's it. All code will be on the GitHub as usual. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to get notified of any new programming videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.